All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel, and thank you guys for tuning in this Tuesday evening. We've got Gail from Gail's Southern Living with us, and I just want to tell her thank you so much for taking your time this evening to spend it with us here.
Thank you for asking me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I was really excited whenever you accepted the invitation to come, and it's a real honor to have you on here. So just gonna want to jump right on into the to the questions. What got you into to living the way you do, like canning and showing people what how you cook and all those things. What got you into doing that?
Well, it kind of started with a work injury because I was working as a paraprofessional and I got a work injury and I was recovering from that and kind of lost my confidence there and I started watching a lot of YouTube videos and I started with chickens, Becky's homestead and the chickens. I started learning about the chickens. That's where I started on YouTube, and then I went into homesteading and prepping and all that. And then I was watching Homestead Tessie, and I was kind of at home, kind of bored, kind of lonely, and just needed an outlet for everything. And I just started watching Homestead Tessie and a bunch of preppers. And oh,
No, you're good. You're good.
still hear me? Okay.
Yeah. You're good.
I saw you
I
move
didn't
me. I
mean
was
to
like,
do
oh,
that.
what happened? So anyway, I just was watching a lot of different people, and I kind of just needed an outlet. And I've learned so much on YouTube. Like I thought I was a good gardener, but then I started watching people on YouTube. I'm like, oh, I'm an amateur. These guys, but I've learned so much, and I've learned about pressure canning and water bath canning, dehydrating, soap making, crafts. I've seen people do all kinds of things and tried to learn and figure out what I like. And so far I'm really liking the soap making. That's my latest thing that I tried.
That's cool. That's cool. That's what we got the goats for, was to start making our own goat milk soap and our own lotions and things like that. And so very very excited about getting into that part of the journey with homesteading. But yeah, what happened?
You kind of cut out there for a second, so I didn't
All right.
catch the question.
Okay. Sorry. I don't know what's going on with that. I hope it stops. But let me check one thing here on my phone and see if that's a problem. And if it is, we'll just take and turn it off, because sometimes my phone wants to interact with my computer and tell my computer what to do. All right. So, all right. So the question is well, I lost my train of thought. Um, you said, you mentioned prepping and things like that. What about living this life? I know you said you enjoy all of it that you've tried, but what about this life have you found to be the most beneficial to you?
I guess just knowing that if something does happen in this world, that we can take care of ourselves. We have chickens, we know how to do gardening. I've learned indoor gardening, outdoor gardening. I've learned how to take care of the chickens and just how to make my own mixes of things and how to make things from scratch and all that. Like I know how to do all that stuff now, whereas if I need to, I can.
Right, right. Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before we got on here on the live, where we were talking about you going and hunting, and you said I proved to myself that I could do it. Right. Um,
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people that watch YouTube and want to live this life, but they live vicariously through us. A lot of times, they're scared to take that leap into homesteading. Right? They're scared to take that first movement into indoor gardening or outdoor gardening or whatever it is that would start to get ready to shift them and move them in a direction of homesteading. What do you think would be beneficial for those people? What would you tell somebody who's right there on the cusp? They're living vicariously through YouTubers doing the homesteading thing, but they haven't took that step yet. What would be something that you would tell them to maybe help motivate them in moving the right direction?
Just start with one thing, either, get 3 or 4 chickens or, get a 5-gallon bucket, drill some holes in it, plant couple of tomatoes, just start small, start something little, and buy a dehydrator. Dehydrating's easier than any other way of preserving food. It's the easiest way, really.
Right.
Water bath canning next, and then of course pressure canning's a little bit more involved, but I've done all of those. But yeah, if I had money for a freeze dryer, I'd probably buy one of those tomorrow and start putting up some stuff. But
Right.
I don't see that right now. Maybe in the future.
And if Harvest Right is listening, we'll both take you on as a sponsor if you want. So,
Yeah, exactly.
but you're right. It is taking small steps and moving in the right direction. What were some of the first things that you can remember going back in your journey? What was some of the first things that you remember doing that maybe led up to the next thing? When you were taking these smaller steps.
Kind of preserving herbs and things like that kind of started me getting started to wanted to do soap making. It kind of led into that because I didn't really save any of that last year, but this year when I have my garden, I can use the lemon balm in my soap and some of these other herbs. And I actually had someone who sent me plantain leaves, and I looked up what you were
Ooh,
supposed to use that for. Well, you can use it in soap making, so
yep.
that's probably what I'm going to do with it. It's a pretty good sized package that she sent me. I was like, okay, well, I'm using that for soap.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Plantain is great. Does plantain not grow very much down there where you're at?
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't ever tried it, but there's probably some medicinal purposes to it. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research. I did kind of like a basic search when I very first received it and did my friend mail, but I need to do a little bit more involved search on what to do with it. I actually have a book in there too that has herbs and what you can do with it. It even has like a recipe on each one. So,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
mhm.
up here, a lot of people will kill it because they think it's a weed like dandelion.
Yeah,
So they kill it and stuff. Do you guys get dandelion down there?
yeah. Mhm.
That my little girl, she just found a very very little flower the other day. She's like, "Look, Daddy, the dandelion's already up," and I'm like, "Ooh, where'd you get that at?" And she's like, "I can't remember," and I'm like, "Oh man," because I
Aw.
I wanted to go dig the root up because I wanted to use the root this year for making tinctures and stuff, and so
Yeah, I'm gonna try that this year too, tinctures.
it's so funny how the more you get involved in this and the deeper you get into it and the more you learn, the more that you want to try things, right? And
Yeah.
quite literally, the healthier you become. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. You don't only become more physically healthy, you become more mentally healthy and even spiritually healthy, dare I say, because you're more aware of what's going on around you, right? And you have it literally is like somebody took the blinders off of you and
Mhm.
gave you the view 360 of everything going on around in the world, and it drops little nuggets of information to you here and there, and it's like, hey, here's this, here's that, and this is going to help you with this problem, or this is going to help you with that problem, being the medicinal purposes and stuff of weeds that grow around us. And it's quite interesting that when you get into this, it starts, like you said, very very small. And about every homesteader that I know who is a serious homesteader, that is the path that they have ended up on. They started with something small, whether it was gardening or canning or whatever it is. They started small and they got on this progressive
Yeah.
path that taught them how to can and put up their own food and then make their tensioners and make herbal teas and go on and so forth and so on. um, why do you think that is? Why do you think people have because this isn't new stuff. This stuff has been around for hundreds of years. Why do you think all of a sudden we are so wildly in love with this now?
Well, I think the insecurity of what was happening in 2020, when the toilet paper disappeared and the sickness and all that, people started to open their eyes up about that food chain not always being there. And every time I look at lettuce now, I don't see it the same because I'm like, if when you're buying the store-bought lettuce, how many chemicals are you? I'm literally, trying to wash it with warm water, thinking about what could be in there, and it's so much better because now I have a grow light and I can grow my lettuce year round under the grow light and make my own salads. I haven't gone into tomatoes yet, but I might try to do that maybe next winter. I might try to tackle that little thing, but I need another grow light definitely. Right now I just have one. So I have
Well,
to be pretty selective about what I put under it.
I totally understand that. And I will give you a little bit of advice. If you want to grow tomatoes, the
Mm.
best indoor tomato that I have found is called orange hats. Orange hats, Baker Creek sells them. They're tiny tomatoes, about that big around. The plant doesn't get very tall, but it bushes out and produces a ton of them. And they
Ooh.
grow very well hydroponically, and they grow very well in pots. And if you want to grow in pots, like I even have behind me here, I've got a raised bed in the house. Okay. And it's from Smart Pots. And Smart Pots is a fabric pot maker. They make their pots out of I can't remember. It's some sort of I can't remember the name of it. Anyhow, it's some kind of a fabric that's breathable, and so you don't get anaerobic with your soil. You don't have to worry about there being an overabundance of water staying in there that you can't see, right? And then your top half drying out and your bottom half staying really soggy and rotting in roots. So with that system, with the Smart Pots, you can get even watering and even drying. And so I have, well, you can see all the stuff growing back here. It's done
I figured
phenomenal.
that must be what's back there behind you. I haven't got into hydroponics yet, but I do want to try it. I would probably do it out here in the utility room, which is where I have my grow light. And there's actually a pretty good sized table back there where I could set it up,
Uh,
so that's in
if
the
you go
future.
if
More
you go
plans for the future.
hydroponics, if you do end up going hydroponics, then this is not me trying to sales pitch it to you. Last year I tried hydroponic tower, and I even tried it this year, and I, for the life of me, cannot get it to grow right. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I can't get it to grow. But everything that I put in this, which is a let pot system,
Mm-hmm.
everything I've put in this is huge. I've got tomatoes that are up to the ceiling in my kitchen.
That's
Right. And I've got lettuce that is like a foot and a half tall. I've got all kinds of stuff, and it's all hydroponic. And those let pots are phenomenal. You put a little bit of the food that, like, it comes in a kit. It's got your food. It's got the little sponges. It's got everything you need. The only thing you need is some seeds to put in it and start them. And it does great. Like I said, I tried the tower last year. It didn't work. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot again this year. It was a no-go again this year. I don't know why it won't grow in them towers, but it does not want to grow in them towers. But I can grow in this let pot, no effort. I pour water in when it gets empty. I put the feed in when I put extra water in to fill it up, and I leave it alone. I don't do anything else except for go and cut what I want off of it, put it on a bowl, and eat it. And it's really worked out really good. So if you do go the hydroponic way, highly recommend these guys because they've got it figured out. It's very effortless for us. Because I spent so much time aggravating myself about why am I not watching videos on, trying to correct the problem on that tower. And I just think it's got to be the tower at this point. If I can grow hydroponic stuff in the let pot, but I can't grow it in the tower, then at this point it's got to be the tower's fault. You know what I mean? So, right. But I think you are dead on in what you said, that 2020 opened up the eyes for many, many people, right? When the toilet paper got gone, I was making jokes about it because I was like, what do you need for a cold? What do you need toilet paper for? Right. And all these, and I'm sitting there and I'm going back through all that right now and thinking about it. People were just buying out of fear. People were buying out of straight fear. And you're right. Whenever we started realizing what was going on and seeing how the food could just dry up one day, and all the ifs, ands, or whats, right, were exposed, and we're sitting there going, yeah, this is not a good situation. We all started growing our own stuff. I mean, I was growing before that, but I became even more cautious of what I was doing. And
I was gardening before that,
right,
but I started the indoor garden, and all that other stuff came partially because of YouTube, but also because of the stuff happening in 2020. Kind
Right.
of started a little bit of fear in me, like our food chain is vulnerable. I didn't know up to that point,
Right.
that it was.
We had no idea. We were so blinded or just completely unaware of what was going on or what could go on that when it happened, we were all in shock. We were all, how can this happen? This is America, right?
Right.
And it does it did end up making us more aware of what was going on and what was on our food. Because like you say, yeah, everybody knows if you bought a tomato in the wintertime from the store, it tasted different than the garden tomato, right? But we
Yeah.
didn't know why. We just thought because, oh, it's a summertime tomato grown in my garden. It just tastes better because it's an heirloom or it's this or it's that. With 1,000 different reasons. We would have never thought that it was because it was coated in some sort of a waxy substance to make it last longer, or it was, this or that that was
Have
right.
you seen the inside of the strawberries? Literally, your strawberry is supposed to be red all the way through. When
Yep.
it's white, that means they grew it unnaturally. And guess what? That means it's not healthy for you.
Exactly. And
It's not
a
right.
tomato is the same weird looking color inside. It's not red. It's got
Yeah,
that
it's not red
white.
bad.
Yeah, it's weird. And then,
Orange, light orange.
yep,
Uh,
yep. And how
it
many
tastes
times have
terrible.
you opened one up and seen seeds that are sprouting inside of it? Have you ever seen that? So we get tomatoes here and we would cut them open and there would be seeds sprouting inside of it already.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, now hang on a minute. How's this happening? Why is seeds already sprouting? This tomato's supposed to be fresh. The wife, it was back in December before our tomatoes in the house started actually producing anything. She bought Private Selection tomatoes, and Private Selection tomatoes are a Kroger brand, which is a pretty expensive brand through Kroger. And we took one bite out of it. Well, her and my son both bit into one. They were little cherry tomatoes, and both of them immediately spit them out. They were like, that tastes horrible. And they were like, here, try. And I'm like, I don't really want to put that in my mouth now that you say it's nasty like that.
Yeah, now that you say it's bad, what
Yeah,
do I want?
right. And they were like, no, seriously, you need to try it because it's something is not right. And the closest taste that I could come to think that it was is like arsenic or something. A very bitter, unnatural flavor, right? It tastes nothing like a tomato, no tartness, no sweetness, no nuttiness, very unnatural. It makes you wonder, where was that grown at and why does it taste like that?
Yeah. I was talking to my sister on the phone the other day and I told her, I said, I really didn't know what a carrot was supposed to taste like until I grew my own about 3 years ago, my first carrots. And I was like, there's some kind of like chemical flavor that it doesn't have when you grow it in your backyard. Okay, it may not look as pretty, it might be little, and people make fun of my little carrots. I'm like, hey, for two people, that little bitty carrot is plenty.
Yep.
And it tastes better. And I know what's in it, and I know what I put in my soil, and I didn't throw any chemicals on it. I grow as organically as I possibly can within my budget.
Absolutely.
I do the best I can with everything.
And you're right. So I was talking to my buddy who's going to be on the 19th. It's not going to be a live stream. We already pre-recorded it. But John Kohler, he runs growyourgreens.com. He's a big YouTuber. He has almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And was talking to him. And on that, we were talking about carrots. And when we got on the subject of carrots, my wife, I think it was last year, she mentioned it a little bit in 2022 because 2022 I went a little nuts with growing all kinds of weird stuff. And she was like, so why are we growing rutabaga and kohlrabi and everything? Just wait, you try it and you'll like it. She tried some of it she liked, a lot of it she didn't. So last year it went even more overboard with, what she called weird stuff. And
Yeah.
she was like, why do you have 13 different types of carrots, 30 different types of radishes, and this, that, and the other, going through I was like, because we eat it. She was like, we don't eat this. I was like, no, I beg to differ. You don't eat it, but we eat it. The kids eat this. I'm like, yeah, kids eat it. Watch this. I was like, kids, go out there and pick yourself some carrots. And I was like, bring them in, clean them off. They went out there, all of them yanked them up some carrots, brought them in, cleaned them off, and they're sitting there just munching on them like they're Bugs Bunny. And she was like, I would have never thought that. She was like, well, they taste like. And so she takes a bite of one, and she's like, oh, that tastes so good. Why don't they taste like this from the store? I was like, you ask me. I mean, you tell me why they don't taste like that in the store. I mean, I don't know, but you're right. They do taste funny. Everything tastes weird and unflavorful and almost like a watered down, nasty version of whatever it is we're eating, right? Like that we grow in the garden. So what's some of your favorite things to grow in the garden?
My very first thing I always grew because my dad always grew was zucchini. Second, probably like tomatoes and then maybe like jalapenos. I also like to grow tomatillas. Those are some of my favorites.
Tomatillos are the thorn in my side.
Oh, really? You
Yes.
have a hard time growing them or you don't like them?
No, ma'am. I grew them in 2021 because I thought it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't planted one since because they just come up all over the yard now.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
like all over, and cannot get rid of them. So I planted them one time, and now I have an abundance of them. So I never have to worry. And ground cherries. I have ground cherries, and I don't know where the ground cherries come from, but literally, I have patches of ground cherries, like 10 by 10 patches of ground cherry. Just
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Last year was my first year with ground cherries.
Well, if you ever need more, I got plenty of them. And huckleberry. So
I
in
would
20,
like to try huckleberries.
they're fun, but let me tell you, they're just like the tomatillos here. You plant them once, and they will just keep coming back. So the huckleberries are very good. We like all that stuff. We eat it all. We like it all. It's just I
What
don't
state are you in?
West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so it's kind of weird that they do that. They just come back up, but they do. They're very resilient. But yeah, the huckleberries are really good. But they're like the tomatillos and the ground cherries. They will just come. I'm very particular about when I plant something. That's all I want in there. And
Yeah.
they just keep coming up. And every time you rip one out, I guess you disturb the soil, and another one pops up.
Yeah.
So, my advice to everybody with the huckleberries is plant them somewhere that you don't mind them coming back every year.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's definitely, but they
Don't
taste,
change your mind.
yeah, exactly. But they taste very, very good, very, very good. They're good to make jellies with and jams. They're good to make little pie fillings with. We really enjoyed the huckleberry. Well, we still do.
I've had it in stuff. I don't know that I've had them by themselves.
They're kind of tarty, but not like a really bad tart. Have you ever had a Schwarzenberry? They're very similar to it. So you got to be careful with all of these berries. The Schwarzenberry, the huckleberry, and there's another one I can't remember, but it looks just like both of them. They're a little black berry. You have to make sure that they turn completely black and that they're kind of soft to touch, not firm, because they hold some kind of a poison in them that if they are even green a little bit, or that's why they tell you wait till they're totally black and kind of mushy, because if there's a little bit of green on there, even if you don't see it and you eat it, you could be ingesting a little bit of that poison and make you sick to your stomach and stuff. So yeah, you got to watch. My wife didn't like that because I planted it and the kids just go around eating stuff out of the garden. And she was like, now what if they eat that? So luckily they haven't ate any of that without me being around, but you just be very, very careful with it. But it's very, very good. Very, very tart. Well, not horribly tart, but it is tart. And it's got a nice sweet note in the back. And it does make very good jams and jellies and pies. We love it. So I highly recommend trying it. Just make sure you put it somewhere that if it comes back the next year, you don't mind it being there, because it's kind of an invasive species kind of deal.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if my ground cherries come up from last year. It said it would, so we'll see. I
And
actually had to go in and weed on that bed today because my perennial bed, there was so many weeds in there. I couldn't tell if anything was actually coming up yet because it was just like covered. I'm like, how do people keep the weeds out of their perennial bed while things are actually coming up? So I had to go in there and just start pulling stuff up. So hopefully my lemon balm and my ground cherries and maybe even my tomatillas, since you say that, maybe they'll come up in there too. But oh, and my dill, all that stuff I had put in there.
dill, I love dill. I like fennel. My actually my parsley is coming back up already. Well, coming back. Like it died back when it got really cold, but it's already coming back and reviving. And I seen lettuce. My Merlot lettuce is growing now.
Yeah, I actually planted some lettuce. I think it was like January 31st, and that lettuce is already coming up, and spinach and chamomile. Anyway, and maybe some beets. I don't know. There's about 5 or 6 different things that are already coming up. But
That's
they said they
awesome.
were weather crops, so I tried them out just to see
Right.
if they would come up, and they're coming up. So
I love gardening. I love growing, and I like watching stuff come up. And what's something about gardening that you enjoy?
um I think it kind of just it calms me, it kind of clears my mind. And it just, because I'm a little bit ADHD kind of thing. So I walk around the house starting things and not finishing them and then coming back. Oh, you left that there? Oh, you left a whole pile of seeds there you were going through. Oh, I forgot because I went on to something else, and then another pile and, that's me. But I do get to try a lot of things because I'm always like, "Ooh, that's interesting. Let me try that." So,
Right.
but anyway, I like trying new things in the garden. Like, um, I may not always buy the most interesting things, but if I win something or somebody sends me something, I'll try it. Like you said, I'll try it just to see
Right.
if maybe I like it.
It, and that's that's the reason why I got into growing different things, because growing up, my dad, and this is not knocking him in any way, shape, or form. He is a great grower, and he taught me a whole lot. But he was very, very dogmatic about what he planted every year. You
That
know,
sounds like my dad.
when it came to peppers, it was hot banana and sweet banana. You know, he had his particular types of tomatoes he wanted to grow. He had the zucchini that he wanted to grow,
Yep.
and his corn that he wanted to grow, and some beans. Right? He was very particular. That's all,
That's
and
my,
it was the same type every year. There was no
yep,
change. Yep. And I thought that that's all there was. Right? Like I thought, well, this is just what it is. You just go to the nursery, you buy it, and that's. And in 2020, I started Googling and looking, and I found there's a whole ton of thousands of different tomatoes and thousands of different peppers
oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
I had no idea existed, because
Yeah.
this is just what it was. And so I started down that rabbit hole of, I want to try different. I want to see what grows best here in West Virginia in my area for my soil that's disease resistant and pest resistant as best as possible, right? And tastes really good. And
Hmm.
um, and so we went down that rabbit hole, and I have tried, I don't even know how many different kinds in the past 4 years, but it's been fun because I never knew that they existed until now. And now it's, again, it's, your eyes are wide open, and you're like, oh, look at all these different varieties there are. Look at,
I grew up with just zucchini. That's it. But last year was my very first time to try butternut squash, and I really like it.
yep,
And I wouldn't have known that if Simply Jan Homestead had not sent me the seeds, and I tried it just because I had it. So now I'm growing zucchini and yellow squash and acorn squash and butternut squash, and there's some other kind of squash. I don't know what it is, but I want to try that one too. But the
kabocha
squash grows
squash.
really well here.
Right. Maybe it's kabocha you're thinking about. Is that one? Is
Yeah,
it?
it might be.
like little round looking?
I think I had won it from maybe CNC Farm, but it's some kind of squash, and I have it in my thing somewhere. But I'm like, I'm gonna plant that one too. See what
I'll
it
send you
does.
some butternuts down there that can get over 130 pounds.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll send you
I
some.
actually ordered some MI Gardener seeds that are those giant pumpkins. So I opened it up to look at the seed to see how big they are. There's 3 seeds in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I only have 3 seeds. So I'm going to try to grow them in a mound because I saw someone do that over in Australia and it looked really effective. So I'm going to make 3 round. I'm going to I have some round, like for gardening stuff. And I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to build it up and make a mound. And I'm going to do that with my 3 seeds. And it's the there's absolutely no purpose in it. It's a challenge. I just want
Just
to see if I can do it. I am successful at growing regular pumpkins, but I've never got a giant one. I've gotten like your regular sized pumpkin you would buy at the store, just not anything super big. And last year I actually ended up with white princess pumpkins
them are pretty.
and some of those green bumpy gourds.
Oh
And so
yeah, I
my
like
mom
them.
and I buy stuff at the store, and then when she's done and I was done, because we like to decorate our porch for fall, I would take them, even hers, and I would just put them out in the wild garden, and they'll just come back up themselves, and you don't do anything to it.
Right.
Not me. And then, you might throw leaves or leftover dirt or something out there occasionally, but you just let them come up on themselves. And that's why I call it the wild garden, because
That's
it's
cool.
crazy and wild out there, and I just let it do what it does.
That's cool. I like that. So let me show you this. So that is one of my giant pumpkin seeds.
Yeah, I think it's about that size. Yeah,
And
right. And there's
th-
only 3.
right. This is one of the smaller ones that I have. Some of them are literally as big as my thumb. That thumb right there is a little bit bigger because I smashed it with a hammer. So it literally
Oh.
flattened it out. So
Ooh,
it broke it and
I
flattened
had
it.
my first garden injury already, right
Oh,
there on my finger. I was digging some composted dirt from the other side of the yard. Well, I call it the chicken side of the yard, and then there's the gardening side of the yard. So on that side of the yard over there, I was digging there, and I was just digging away, filling up a 5-gallon bucket to put in one of my raised beds, and one of the limbs was real sharp, and it just poked right in my finger, and I just sat there and watched it, waiting for it to start gushing. But it didn't bleed that much, but it throbbed for a while.
right. That
So first garden injury.
I'm telling you, my hands by the end of the season, they'll be so cut up and tore up from the floor up. It
Already
won't even be
have
funny.
the dirt, the dirt
Right.
under the fingernails.
Yep. Yep. That's how mine stay. They'll
I
stay
have to be
dirty.
careful when I'm going somewhere that I don't have, just dirt caked all over there.
Yeah. Because then people's like, oh, this poor homeless person,
I know. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with
Right.
you? Think
Exactly.
of God.
Yeah. They don't know that we like being dirty, do they?
Yeah, yeah. We
But
probably are in our gardening clothes when we're going to the store, which when you get done, you're just rubbing your hands on your pants,
right.
because that's just what you do. You're in the garden, man. You don't have a rag or a dish towel. You
Nope.
just
Just
wipe
whatever
your
you can
hands with
wipe it
your pants
off
and go.
on. Yep.
That's right.
Let me tell you a little story about my first time. So in 2020 was my first time trying to grow a giant pumpkin, and I bought the seeds off of Amazon, and they were Atlantic giant pumpkins, and they said they could get 100 to 1,000 pounds. I was lucky if they became 50 pounds. In 2021, I got seeds from an actual giant grower and grew 2 over 1,000. One of them at 900, a couple 500 pounders, and a bunch of 300 and 400 pounders. Yeah.
Wow.
So uh, just if they don't get really big, don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Just come to me and I'll get you some seeds that will for
Yeah,
sure
maybe
grow.
I do better seeds, but they're bigger than any of the seeds I've ever seen so
Right.
far. The biggest I've ever seen. So if that's any indication, I
Hopefully it
don't know.
is. Hopefully it is. But
I hope so.
I just know that for like the seeds that we have as giant growers, their genetic potential is very, very big compared to some of the genetic potential that some of these other seed companies have. And I'm not knocking In My Gardener. I love In My Gardener.
Oh,
I love
I
his
don't know.
seeds.
I won't. This is my first time to buy them. Last year I tried to grow them, but they were from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming. She had sent me some. I did not successfully grow those pumpkins, but I did successfully grow some regular pumpkins, gourds, and white pumpkins. But I did not get the giant ones up. I don't know what
Well,
I. Is there any advice you have for growing giant pumpkins? Is there anything special you put in the soil?
Uh, yes. Hang on one second. How much per seed for the big butternut squashies? Budget prepper. Email me and I will take care of that question. In fact, if anybody has any questions about seeds, email me at babydrill, BABY drill, DRILL 2119 at yahoo.com, and I will answer any questions you got about any of the seeds that I talk about. Just don't want to take time away from my seeds, take and away from Gail here. But so there is a lot of things that I do differently. So I do a soil test at the beginning of the season. So like right now, I'll have my soil test sent off, and I'll find out what my soil is lacking in, as far as NPK and the micronutrients. And then I will run those numbers through what they call a soil calculator. And the soil calculator will tell me, based on 1,000 square foot, how much of the amendment I need to put down. Now, if I have only a 500 square foot or 250 square foot, then I would do half or a quarter of what their recommendation is for 1,000 square foot. But that's the first thing I do right off the bat is soil test, find out what my soil is lacking, and put those nutrients back in there. Because a lot of times gardeners, we just put compost down, we just till it and then fertilize it or whatever we're going to do. We don't really know what our soil is lacking in, right? And so here's the problem with that. If we are lacking severely in, say, calcium, and calcium being severely low can lock out other nutrients that are important for our garden. And so, like, for instance, tomatoes, if we're low on that and we're low in calcium and it's locking out these other nutrients, and then we start getting blossom end rot, the very first thing we do is we run out there and dump Epsom salt on it or something else, but we did not correct the actual problem of the calcium deficiency. And even though we put magnesium on it, which is something that it's needing, because calcium being low or locked out can mess with your magnesium, and that's what the salt is. Epsom salt is magnesium. So that's some of the first things we do. But if we would have did a soil test to begin with, we would have known that we were deficient in calcium or whatever it is that we're deficient in, and we would have brought that back up to a level state. A lot of people think that giant growers are going out there and slamming a bunch of fertilizer, which we are. I mean, we put tons of fertilizer out there, but the plants are eating a lot. But what we're doing first is we're amending that soil back to a basic, right? What we call basic, a level playing field. All the nutrients are balanced. Your nitrogen, your potassium, or excuse me, your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and all your micronutrients are balanced. They're leveled out as best as possible. And when we put those plants in the ground, when we transplant them, they have everything balanced and ready to go. So all cylinders are firing, and they're sucking up those nutrients as needed, and nothing's going to be locked out. Okay, because it's all balanced. That's why we get a very big start. That's why our plants get really big, really fast. And, I can grow some pumpkin plants. I've grown, 20 some inches in a night, just the main vine grow over 20 some inches in a night. And the reason for that is because we have the balanced soil, and they're able to feed what they need and have it right then. And so they grow. Now, as the season progresses, our nutrients digress, right? Or degress rather. They just keep going down, and when we're losing the nutrients. And so we have to make up for that. And so, early stage, we'll feed them a little bit more nitrogen rich fertilizer. And then once we get to the flowering and the bloom, the flowering bloom stage and setting fruit stage, that's whenever we start switching away from nitrogen rich things into more phosphorus rich things, and then moving into less phosphorus rich, more potassium rich things as we're wanting that fruit to grow bigger. And it's nothing for us to throw stuff, potassium rich fertilizers that are as high as 0025 or 0053 on these, and not hurt them at all. Now, sometimes we blow the pumpkin up. Quite literally, we'll grow that pumpkin so fast that we blow it up. It will literally blow up. Not like you put tannerite on it, but it'll crack and blow itself up. And so, it all starts with that, with having that level, balanced soil. And after you have that, it's just about feeding them what they need. The next thing that I always recommend is, a lot of people don't know that, in order for your soil to feed your plant, you have to feed your soil. Right. And so people don't think of it like that. They just think, well, I gave it fertilizer, so it should be fine. But that's not all there is within your soil. There's mycorrhiza, there's, which is a beneficial fungi. There's beneficial bacteria like azos. And then you have lactobacilluses, and there's a bunch of those that are very, very good. And all those have a symbiotic relationship with the root zone. And what they're doing is they're converting those nutrients into usable nutrients for the plant to uptake them more easily, right? And so I always encourage people look into getting beneficial bacteria, beneficial fungi, your lactobacilluses and things like that. And there's no way getting around a good compost tea. A good compost tea will do things for your garden. It'll feed the worms that are in there. It'll feed the beneficial bacteria and fungi, right? It feeds your plants, and it feeds your soil. So if you think of it as, let me feed my soil so my soil can feed my plants, so my plants can grow to feed me, that's the best way to look at it.
Compost tea.
Where do I get compost tea?
What do you put in it? What do you put in it? Make?
So I use Extreme Gardening compost tea and Malibu compost tea, the biodynamics. Extreme Gardening has got these great little packs that they're already set up and made, right? So they're already in a sack. You don't have to put them in one of those sacks. It's already in one of those micron filtered sacks. You throw it into your tub, and it's got an activator pack that comes with it. You pour your activator in there with it and start brewing. And I use an aero mixer to brew my 275 gallon compost tea, whatever you want to call it, jug, or I just call it a bucket, but it's 275 gallons. But anyhow, I use the aero mixer to do that. And it does a great job of that. Plus, it's putting a lot of oxygen in there, which plants need oxygen too. They, especially in the root zone. If you got soil like mine where it's clay, it's very compact, so you got to have that extra oxygen in there. You got clay too, so
yeah, clay too.
That aero mixer will help a lot with that, because which
is what I do a lot of raised beds in containers.
Yep.
Because of the clay, it hits that clay, and most plants don't like that.
No. Well, it smothers their roots. You can go. I can have the prettiest tilled patch in the world, and it be so fluffy and airy, and within a month of me planting my pumpkins out there, it's compacted, and that not from me walking on it. That's from rain and me watering, and it just settling naturally and compacting back. And you'll see roots running to the top of the ground trying to find oxygen to breathe.
When do you usually plant your giant pumpkins?
So about mid-April. I'll look at the forecast and try to figure out like when they're saying that we're going to be out of the frost zone. Most years
I'm on 8A. What are you?
I think they say I'm 7A. So yeah, and I get very leery. A lot of guys will plant. They'll plant end of April to between the end of April and the 15th of May, they'll be in the ground, but they're putting little mini greenhouses over the plants, and then, but I've seen them outgrow the greenhouses before they can take them off. They'll put them in these little 10 by 10s, and here we are, getting toward the end of May, and they're running out of room in the little greenhouse. and they're starting to push the plant out from underneath it, and then they end up getting a frost and kills the tips of the plants.
Last year in my zucchini, somehow somebody had sent me some seeds that was supposed to be zucchini, and two of them turned out to be pumpkins, and I got two pumpkins out of that, and it was just growing right there in the middle of my zucchini. I'm like,
That's
you
funny.
know, I must have used some seeds somebody sent me. And so I ended up with two pumpkins early, and people were like, what? I was like, well, it was just growing with my zucchini, getting watered at the same time. And
Right.
vines were
That's
just it's kind of a long, skinny bed. So the vines just kind of go outside, and it ends up being a lot wider, and then I kind of put bricks to make sure hubby doesn't mow over,
Yep.
anything. I'm like, don't touch anything. He's like wanting to move on. No, when the
Right.
pumpkins and boards are go, do not touch. Just let it. I'll pick the weeds. I'll do whatever. Just leave it alone.
Yep. Just leave them alone.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I let them grow and let them do their thing, and I'll let them take over the whole yard. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
fun.
why the wild gardens out there and the pumpkins usually grow out there near that area. So I was planning on making my 3 mounds out there. And then in the regular part of my wild garden, I was going to grow some sugar pie pumpkins along with my
Ooh,
cantaloupe and the other pumpkin things that I have coming up there that are wild. So it just kind of
right. Mingle.
becomes
So,
a
but
little mess back there.
Budget Prepper says, what all do you have started for seedlings?
I have marigolds started because I like to plant my marigolds with my zucchini as a companion plant to help with the squash bugs. So I start my marigolds because everything, I mean, it's Texas, so I just throw it in the ground, it's warm, it comes up. So I have a few peppers under there because I have a little bit harder time with peppers. So I have some peppers under there, and I have some lettuce, and I have some marigolds to plant with my zucchini. But everything else I'm just planting outside.
Awesome.
Just
Awesome.
straight in the ground.
I've got so much stuff planted. Budget Prepper. I just started a video. I just released a video on what all we just planted. There's so many things that it's not even funny. So if you go check that out, it's a lot of cool season crops though, is what I got started. And
Yeah, season.
somebody else asked, do you grow cantaloupe? I do grow cantaloupe. Do you grow cantaloupe?
I do. Oh, I had the best cantaloupe last year. I do not know who sent me those seeds, but they were the sweetest cantaloupe I've ever tasted. I think it might have been simply Jan Homestead that sent them to me. They were so good, but I'm gonna have to. I didn't mark them, so I'm gonna have to just kind of guess as to which ones they are, or plant a couple of each. But they were the best cantaloupe ever. I had a really good cantaloupe year last year.
So I'm taking it you really like cantaloupe. So
Yeah.
have you ever tried the Delice de la Table or the Prescott Fond Blanc?
No.
Those are two
That sounds a
types.
little that sounds a little fancy for my Texas brain, but if you send me some seeds, I'll try to grow it.
All right, that's a deal. They are rare French cantaloupes, and I got them in 2021 and grew them. And the Prescott Fond Blancs I didn't get anything off of that year. Every time they would get you have to be very, very careful because they will be one day they'll look fine and the next day they'll be rotted because they literally ripen overnight. Like they're
Wow.
and the Delice de la Table is like that as well. But as far as taste goes, they're both rare French melons. Encourage everybody to go look them up. Delice de la Table and Prescott Fond Blanc. And I'm telling you guys, the taste for these two rare French melons are incredible. So for one pack, I can't remember which one's which, but one of them I got 5 seeds for, and it was $15 for those 5 seeds. And the other one I got 5 seeds for, and it was $15 for one for 5 seeds, and then $10 for one for 5 seeds. So the seeds are even expensive. But the taste is phenomenal, and you can grow them inside because the plant doesn't get like overly huge.
Yeah.
In my experience, it don't get real big. Now the other thing, if you like melons, have you ever tried the Rich Sweetness 132 melon? It's about that big, and
Mm-mm.
it's from Baker Creek. I am telling you, that is a personal size cantaloupe. Like, just you can eat like two of them, right? They are so good. I had a bunch of people come
Is
up
it like
here.
the size of an orange?
Yes, yes, and they are awesome. I had a lot of people come up here in 2021 for a kind of like a walk through of the garden or whatever, and
Yeah.
they were taking them home with them. They were like, "Can I have some more to take?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. There's 7 plants there, and they're putting on way more than we can eat. Like, they will load you up more than cucumbers."
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
Cucumbers usually come a lot. Last year, we had a barbecue at the house, and we had a bunch of people playing cards in here, and I think it wasn't my turn. Some other people were playing, so I went to go water the garden because, that you have to keep doing that, and, I brought in a bunch of those ground cherries, and I let everybody try it, and everybody's like, says it tasted like a different thing. But anyway, that was our entertainment, and people were like, "It tasted. Let me have another one." Well, okay, let me go pick some more, and I'd go out there and grab some. And no, nobody had had any, including me. Well, I think I had had some a couple weeks before that, but pretty much everybody had never had them before, so that was kind of
right.
different. So I got to try all kinds of neat things from YouTube because people just send you seeds of stuff, and you're like,
It's
I have to
fun,
try it. You sent it
right?
to me. I have to try it.
Yeah, do you know who Lazy Dog is? Lazy Dog Farm, Travis Key.
Sounds kind of familiar.
So him and his dad used to do Haas Tools, right?
Okay, yeah.
Anyhow, um, so I send him seeds all the time. Me and him's got a pretty good rapport with each other, and I get him into so much trouble because of the stuff I send him. He done got the pumpkin fever now, and then the giant watermelon fever, giant butternut, and all this stuff. But I send him tons of different things, right? And but it's fun. It's so much. I get enjoyment watching somebody else grow something that I sent to them, and talk about how amazing or how cool or whatever it is. It's so fun.
Well, like my first year, I got the Coco Zell zucchini. I was like, what's going on with this zucchini? And I was
Yep.
asking my friend Adrian, I'm like, what's going on with this zucchini? I'd never seen the zucchini with stripes.
Yep.
Because, like, my dad was like your dad and grew the same thing every year. It's like, what is this? She's like, oh, it's a zucchini. So now if somebody sends me seeds and they come out with the stripes, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what that is.
Yep.
But at first I was like, what's going on with the zucchini? Is it like
Right.
sick or
Because there's
cross with something or what's going on here? But yeah,
right. We were used to seeing Dad, grow the black beauties and stuff like that, the dark green
yeah,
ones.
yeah. You
And,
leave them
and
out there too long and they're like,
yep.
you know,
Right. But the cocozelles, they get long.
yeah, they get long, but they're
My
not as fat, I don't think.
no, not as fat. My state record is from that I grew this past year is from the cocozelle, and it was like 30 inches long or something like that. Um,
Ooh.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think our Grow Big TV is doing a zucchini challenge this year.
Oh, that might be
And I
fun.
think the prize is like $100.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
they're having like there's a registration video for each thing that they're doing. And
Okay.
I thought about joining the zucchini and maybe the giant sunflowers because
I
I
may
had
have to.
some seriously mammoth sunflowers. My neighbors like came over the house and they're like, because I live in a small city. I don't actually live country. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, there's a fence between me and them, and it was way over the fence. And my neighbor's like, what kind of sunflower are those? I've never seen a sunflower that big in my whole life. And so at the end of the season, when I went to harvest them, I went and took her some seeds and gave them to her. So next year we'll
That's
have the
cool.
dueling sunflowers. So
That's cool.
but
I
yeah,
I
last year was my first year with the mammoth sunflowers. They were huge. I got those from a seed swap.
I got the state record at seven. Yeah. No. 16 foot. It's 16 foot, 1.5 inches tall for a sunflower, and a 21 and an eighth inch head across. So
Wow.
yeah, like it's almost
I
2 foot
don't know what
across.
mine was. I'm gonna guess maybe 13, but I'm really not sure. But I need to get like a huge, I don't even know how you would measure that really. Maybe I could get hubby to measure it for me
I'll
because
I'll tell
they
you
were
how.
huge. They
So
were huge. But
the
I
so
saved some of the heads.
what I would do is go and get some furring strips. Uh, they're 1 inch thick by like 2 inches wide,
Mm.
and butt them together. Take get some aluminum nails, the long aluminum spike nails, right, and drill 2 holes in the top of those furring strips. They're like 8 foot long furring strips. Right? They're 1 by 2 by 8 foot, and drill 2 holes in there, the a little smaller than the diameter of the aluminum nails. Okay, cut the heads off of those aluminum nails, and drill 2 holes in the ends of them on both ends, and join them furring strips together until you get like 20 foot, or well, it'd be 24 foot. But join them until you get 24 foot.
To give them some strength
Some
to hold
strength,
up.
right?
Yeah, I
But
had a
also,
whole bunch. Uh, that one area did really well because they were right up next to the fence, so they had a little support there. But the other ones out, there was some out in the middle of the wild garden between the pumpkins and all that. There was some growing up there, and we had some kind of storm and they blew over. So I actually just cut them out, and I was like, okay, well, just keep going. You have sunflowers in two other places. So
right?
I just cut them down. I was like, well, okay, Luckily I had taken like a lot of pictures of them and video and stuff like that. So, but
Yep.
yeah, I had sunflowers in three different areas of my yard last year.
I love sunflowers. I always have a sunflower garden. But what you can do with, so that you know the length of your sunflower at any given time, what you do is you figure out how much of that you want to drive in the ground, right? And so if you want to put a foot of that in the ground, or 18 inches of the stake in the ground, you just mark it there at 0. Mark that at 0, and then go up from there, marking it, every 12 inches. So then as it grows, you know where it's at.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, see, we have an 8-foot fence.
That would be good,
So
because then
we
you can
can't,
actually attach
yeah,
this.
we can't see the neighbors, but I had to put a fence because I would be, because it's a small city, I would be in the backyard and people would walk up to me while I was gardening. Well, that doesn't make it relaxing for me, thinking that
No,
somebody could walk up on me at any time.
right.
Plus, if the neighbors like had a party next door, be like, I don't want to be
Yep.
awkwardly walking around in my tank top and shorts, feel like people are staring at me when I'm out there in garden. I just want to look
Right.
like I look and just work and not have to worry about people looking at me.
Yep,
So
I agree.
I have a fence now, so I have full privacy. And literally the only way to get in or out of, well, you can only really get out of it. You can't go in it. There's no gate in. You
Right.
can only open it from the inside. So,
That's nice. So, but I'm
mhm.
the same way you are. I don't like people just walking up. Of course, I don't have to worry about too many people, but I do have the occasional one. I'll be out in the front yard gardening, and somebody will, every once in a while they'll stop by. And I've actually had people come in the yard and try to take pictures of the pumpkins in the yard. Now that gets on my nerves. Just walking my yard, I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
aggravating. But yeah, I'm
I have
like you.
everything in the backyard. From the front, from the only way you could know I was a gardener from the front is on the side of my neighbors. You can see my, you can see my hyacinth vines, my cucumber vines. You can see the vines, some of the vines lapping over where the climbing thing is. And then you could see my sunflowers, once they get to a certain point. So that's the only way you could know I was a gardener, is if you seen the vines over the side, or the sunflowers, how tall they are. So.
Right. Well, I'm glad we're talking about kind of vertical growing right now, because Budget Prepper said, "What's the best vertical garden?" Do you know what the best vertical garden is?
There's a
There are a
lot of
lot.
things you could, I mean, I wish I was a builder because I could totally think up some really cool things. Well, Simply Jan Homestead, her greenhouse messed up. So, and the frame was bent. So they started cutting it apart and they have it set up where things can grow up on. I was like, oh, that's really neat. They should come up with some kind of a growing thing that does that. But my husband took some boards and put chicken wire on them. And I have that up right up next to the fence. So I have my cucumbers growing on it. I have some carnal climbers and some climbing spinach and some hyacinth vines that I
Climbing
grow. I
spinach.
have a climbing wall.
I'm gonna have to look into
So
climbing spinach.
yeah, somebody had sent me the seed, so I
That's
just
cool.
tried it.
I've never heard of that. Uh,
Climbing spinach, yeah.
I use the fence because I got 6 foot tall fence all the way around the property. So I use the fence, and then I use cattle panels, and I just bow the cattle panels, between two stakes. I take a stake on each side, bow it up to where it, fits in between it, and I make like a kind of like a high tunnel almost, but they can climb up the sides of that, and that's where I grow peach, vine peach, or mango is what it's called. It's another Baker Creek seed. It's almost like the Rich Sweetness 132, but a little bit smaller. And then I grow the Coho watermelon, which is a little watermelon about that big. It's orange inside. And the Golden Royal watermelon, which is orange, like a pumpkin on the outside and red on the inside. And the silver Yamamotos, which are green with white silver flesh on the inside. And they grow great on a trellis.
I haven't been successful with watermelon yet, but I'm going to keep trying.
They are hard, but once you get it down, they are easy to grow. Now, granted, I quit really trying to grow the ones to eat, and I started focusing more on the ones to grow for competition because the world record hadn't been broke since like 2012 at 350 pounds for a watermelon. So I desperately want to break the world record watermelon but once you get it down, they are so much fun and easy to
The
grow.
watermelon I actually want to eat. The pumpkin, however, I do want to grow just for fun. I'd like to get something bigger than an average pumpkin.
You can do it, and
I
I'll
can,
help you.
a lot of people have trouble growing just a regular pumpkin. I can do that.
Yep.
And gourds and last year I got my first bottleneck gourds. Those are pretty neat.
I like bottleneck gourds. They're fun. I'm actually looking for long-handled dipper gourds right now is what I'm looking for. Some really good long-handled dipper gourds. So I got to keep my eye on for some of those. I'll tell you, though, the secret to watermelon. They like high phosphorus and they like high organic matter.
Okay.
Yep. If you can get high organic matter and high phosphorus, they'll love you. So they are awesome. So the sunflowers, you sound like you had a blast with them things.
Yeah.
What else do you grow and that kind of shocked you and made you think, wow, that's really big. I didn't expect that.
Well, my very first year with dill, I tried to grow it in a pot and it did not work. Last year I put it in the ground. It was taller than me. I literally have a picture of myself standing next to it. The dill was huge.
That's crazy. My
And that
dill's
was
lucky
my
to get 3
second
foot.
year. So if I don't grow something well the first year, I'll try again. And I'll literally try for about I tried 3 years on loofah. I figured out, I don't know, either I don't have the right soil or it just doesn't grow here. I don't know, but we're done with loofah. We're moving on.
Where
But I'm
did you
gonna
get the
keep trying
seed
on
from?
pumpkins. The
Where'd you
loofah,
Yeah.
just people have sent them to me.
I'll send you
Uh,
some. I'll send you some loofah seed.
Um,
They're
I haven't bought any. I've only been given them. Maybe it is the seeds.
they're very they're not. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. If you got the right seed for them, they will grow like green beans. Just like morning glory. Just take over and go.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I'm like, I haven't had that experience with loofah. I'm like, I've gone the first year I had them in one area. They had a climbing wall. We had some kind of flood that all got knocked down. So, okay, first year done. Second year, I don't know, ants. Last year, ants and drought. So it's just like stuff every year. It's just
Right.
But yeah, it may be the seeds. I can get it up. I can even get small ones. I just never have gotten to the point to where it just
Big.
doesn't.
So
It's supposed to be big, and long.
Yep.
I know what they're supposed to look like, and that's not what.
I grow them. I grow them a lot.
Somebody said that they're not even picky on the kind of soil. So I'm like,
they're really not. they're they grow like morning glory, just like just
Morning
grow.
glows like
Right. They just take off and grow everywhere where you don't want them to grow.
yeah.
um, the only thing that I can think of that would be a problem for them is they're pollinated at night by a moth. Uh, actually all gourds are pollinated at night by moths. If you ever watch, they're like a pumpkin, it'll open up early of the morning and it'll get pollinated by the bees. But once it gets over 82, I think, or something like that, the female is no longer receptive. So the ovary is no longer receptive once it gets like over 82 degrees. The For a gourd, it opens up in the late evening. So like you'll start to see it trying to open up at like 7, 8 o'clock, you know what I mean? Somewhere around in there when it starts to open the flower up. It's the same for bushel gourd, long gourd, loofah gourds, all that stuff. You might see some that are opened up early of the morning, but that's just because they were opened up at night. But they like a little bit of a not a cold temperature. They don't want it cold, but they like nighttime temps. So that's what they want, like
Maybe I
70.
didn't plant them early enough in the season. Maybe I
Might
waited too late to where the soil was too warm here in
might
Texas.
be,
Maybe.
but they also like not a lot of water because no gourds really like a lot of water. They like actual gourds. Pumpkins love water. Pumpkins will drink 100 gallons a day, but uh, long gourds, bushel gourds, stuff like that, they don't need a whole lot of water. They can do pretty good, drought like conditions.
That's what
Um,
Ginger at Not for Nothing Homestead said. She has it in some areas she didn't even pay attention to, and they just go crazy over there. I'm like,
yep,
what? And
yep.
here I am trying. Maybe I'm trying too hard. I don't know.
I would just maybe this year maybe plant them a little bit earlier and kind of watch and see if you've got moths going and landing on them and actually pollinating them. Because I'm kind of curious if maybe there's not any moths down there pollinating, because not every moth is a pollinating moth. You know what I mean? Like here we have these little white purple looking ones, and you'll see them fluttering around and
Yeah.
pollinating. Um,
Would it be this? I mean, because I did get the bottleneck gourds, I did get the pumpkin, I did get the cantaloupe, but
yeah,
and gourds, but I don't
I
know.
I don't know. I would say it's
I do have a lot of flowers. I plant a lot of flowers, like
right.
12, 13, 14 different kinds of flowers. I
Well, that's a
mean,
lot. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
If
I would
somebody
say
sends it
it's
to me, I mean, I have zinnias and marigolds and nasturtiums and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I just have flowers everywhere. So
right.
I'm
That's why I
hard as
kind of
usual.
that's why I leaned back to the seed. Maybe something was wrong with the seeds because if you're getting all that stuff, then it's obvious you got moths that are pollinating at night. If you got the bottleneck gourds, so then there's
Yeah.
got to be something
Well, it
else,
wasn't a lot, but I got three. I got three of those.
right? Well,
That's usually I usually get 3, 4, 5. Well, that one year I got a bunch of those green bumpy gourds. I had like 12, 14, 15. I had a whole porch full of them.
we're
I lined my front porch.
all right. So here's a good way for everybody to tell the difference, because I think I seen something pop up in the chat there. If there's a white flower on your gourd, that is going to be a nighttime pollinated gourd. If it's an orange or yellow flower, that'll be a daytime pollinated gourd, and
I did not know that. You
yep,
taught me something new.
that'll be your bees that'll pollinate that. So if it's
Is there a
yellow,
specific kind of flower you need to plant for those nighttime? Like, should you plant a flower that's open at night, like a
you can plant
moonflower or something?
the moon ones. How you got morning glories and then you got the moon.
The moonflower. That's
Yeah,
the bigger version of the
yeah, and they open up at night.
big
You
white
can
ones. Mhm.
Yep, you can plant them.
Yeah,
So
I did have those. Can't remember, was last year. I want to say it was last year I had the moonflowers, but maybe it was the year before. But
I love them. I think they're pretty.
oh, I love them. Yeah, that was very first garden I had when I was young. I had some moonflowers in there. I remember. They were growing
Uh,
all up my trellis.
I love. There's nothing like growing flowers and fruit up on a trellis. I think it looks so tidy, so neat, and very pretty. I mean, I if I could afford to, I'd have a whole lot more trellises around here.
Oh yeah, me too. If I could build stuff, I'd probably build more of them.
Me too. Me too.
I want some more. Matter of fact, I think I might. They have some pretty cool ones at Tractor Supply. I might just go buy something.
um, I like when they put two raised beds together. Well, not together, but one over here and one over here, and kind of have a walking path, and then do the arch trellis
In
and
between. Oh yeah.
connect the two sides.
I'd love to have an arch, almost like the kind people get married under. I'd
Yes,
like to have one of those and then grow stuff all up that and then have things coming down like,
that would look
you
pretty,
know, anything,
right?
cucumbers or loofah or butternut squash or just anything.
Combination of all of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All of it, yeah.
Low family home or low family venture. So if you want to look up world records, you can go to Google and you can just type in what world record you're wanting to look for. Sometimes they're a little harder to find than just doing that, but generally speaking, if you say what's the world record long bean, type that in, it'll pop up what it is. If you say what's the world record pumpkin, it'll pop that up. But there's
Do
categories
you
like
have
that. And
videos on your pumpkins?
what is it?
Do you have videos on your big pumpkins?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Go
Lots
check.
of videos on them. I spent the first 2 years I did YouTube, that's all it was pretty much, was all about giant pumpkins. And
I
then
think I remember you on somebody's channel talking about your pumpkins one time. I
it
wanna
might have
say I
been
remember
Bland's
that.
Promised Land Ranch, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that sounds right.
And then I started pivoting from that into actual homesteading stuff because the fact of the matter is, yes, I'm passionate about growing and I'm passionate about growing giants, but at the end of the day, it's a homesteading channel and not just giant growing. And
Yeah, that's why I
so
said Gail's Southern Living. So whatever it is, wherever Gail's going right now, that's what we're gonna watch. But I'm always gonna do gardening. But the reason I do spring and summer gardening and not a lot of winter gardening is I'm kind of like adult ADD. So I kind of like do something for a while and then I take a break and do something else. And then during the winter, I'm really, really wanting the vegetables and so that I'm gearing and I'm ready to go. So I have to take a little break so that I'll be excited to do it again. So
I'm the
that's how
same way.
my weird little brain works. I get bored and I have to take a break.
I'm the
So
same way.
so in the
Bored.
winter I do cooking and crafts and soap making and couponing and all kinds of other stuff.
That's funny. But like you, I get bored very easily. So I learned how to play the guitar. I got bored with it and I ain't never touched it again. Right. Like I got them in there and I got a bunch of them in there. I just, whatever. And then I got the banjo, learned how to play that. And I'm like, didn't master it by no means, but I just think, okay, I can play a few things on it. I'm good. So I put that away. And it's like that with a lot of things for me. I get bored very easily. I think once I have done something and I've accomplished it, well, once I feel accomplished, then I'm like, okay, I'm good. And it's not it's not as it's something that drives me, right? And so I have to constantly find a way to challenge myself. And there's a lot of guys that I grow around, and they're like, Ryan, if you would quit growing all the other stuff you have and only focus on those giant pumpkins, you could have already grown, a 1,500 or 2,000 pound pumpkin. But you focus on 38 different records that you're trying to break, and your
I thought you were
times.
going to say they didn't want you to focus on food. I was fixing to say, what? You got to eat, man. I
Yeah,
thought they were going to
no,
say, if you wouldn't grow that vegetable garden, you'd have plenty of time for those pumpkins.
well,
That's what I
now
thought you
there
were
have
going to
been some that
say.
said,
That too.
yeah, if you want to be a serious grower, you're only gonna want to focus on them pumpkins if you want to be a serious grower. And I'm
I
just
guess
not
I just want to dabble in it. That's
right.
me, I guess.
Yeah,
I just want to I want to get lucky and boom, there it is. Look what
yep,
I did that I
Right.
just really guess. Everything that's a success is just learning from YouTube and applying it, and some of it is just guessing
Yep.
and just magic. It just happens. I don't sometimes I can't even explain. I'm like, okay, well, it turned out well. I don't know how, but
I
somehow.
always say the good Lord knows what He's doing, and I just go out there and do whatever. I was like, because half the time I completely lost village idiot out there, and God takes pity on me and says, well, He's trying, and so He
Yeah.
snaps His finger and grows it for me. I
My
mean,
mom's like, "You're such a good gardener," and she was talking about YouTube. Like on YouTube, I'm like way down here. I said, because if you hear these other people with all these big words, I'm like, I can know some of those things and not always just put it forth. Like I have some knowledge, but I don't always come up with the right words. Like I could be thinking of you need to amend your soil, but at the time I can't think of that word. I get nervous and I
yep,
I say something that doesn't sound remotely intelligent and I'm like, I don't know what you're thinking. You know the words, you know what they because I ask if I don't if you say something I don't know, I'll ask you. Well, actually, some of the what you said about the pumpkins I didn't understand. But if it's something I want to learn, I'm gonna ask questions. Like I asked you questions a while ago. Well, what are you putting in your soil and
right.
what kind of stuff are you putting in your compost? Because I really do want to try to learn and grow and be better.
Right. And that's how I am. I'm like that, I can pop off these big words like anthocyanins and I can tell you all about it and I can tell you about, the other things that are in those plants that are good for us, and all these big words. But once I get like this in a conversation or something, right? Or it's usually when I'm on live because I'm trying to read comment, talk to you and stuff, and I'll lose my train of thought or I'll lose the word and it won't come back to me, and then I start stuttering all over myself. So I totally get it because I
You
know
don't
it.
know what you're saying. You're like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, what was the word? What was the word? But
what was that?
they're the important thing though, I think is yes, people, because I know people will end up saying this. Yeah, it is important to be able to talk about those things if you know them. I get it. But um, the most important part is that we know it right now.
Yeah,
We might get lost in conversation or we might forget or whatever, in telling you about it. But the important thing is that we know it.
we
And if
know
we
it. We can do
shared
it.
it, you can do a
We
little
can
bit of
shoot that deer if we need to. We can plant that garden if we need to. We can
exactly
grow indoors if we need to. We can make soap. We can because
right.
if we need to, we know how to do it. We can apply
Exactly.
it. Even if we can't explain it. But I do try to teach back what I've learned about gardening to other people. And everything I learn on YouTube, I try to teach back. Even YouTube tips and knowledge. If I learn something, I try to put out one or two YouTube tips videos a year to teach new people because literally I found about 4 or 5 tiny little gardening channels and I did a little shout out for each of them, like, okay, well, they're starting at the beginning, and I've mentored a lot of channels to try to help them,
Right.
grow their channels. And, a couple of them are monetized. So,
That's
and then
awesome.
I'm mentoring some right now. And I do that about every couple of years. I'll take on a new, well, I'm going on, oh no, oh, August will be 4 years.
That's awesome. So
Mm.
March will be my third. I started in 2021. So March will be my third year. So very excited about that. Uh, so here's a good question. Have you ever watched something on YouTube and it not be the correct information and you tried to apply it and you found out later on that it wasn't right?
Yes.
Is that not frustrating?
Hmm.
Now, I say this a lot, and I want to get your take on this. As people on YouTube, whether we are or not, people look at us as a source of good information and knowledge because we're on YouTube, right? Not the fact that anybody can make a YouTube channel whether they know anything or not. They can just make one. Um,
Right.
And so I've always tried to come at it with the approach of people's watching me, then they're learning from me. And I need to know exactly what I'm talking about so that I don't give them misinformation or bad information or repeat bad information and stuff that I never researched or studied or known about.
If I
What's
make
your
a recipe and at the end of that recipe I try it and I don't like it, I don't post that video.
There you go. Yep.
Because why am I going to tell? Because if somebody uses that recipe and they make it, they're going to be like, well, Gail said this was a good
A good
recipe
one.
and
Yep.
it's not. So I don't put the video out. I'm like,
Right.
no.
I'm
So
the
I
same
try
way.
to do this with integrity as best I can.
Yeah, and I'm the same way because I really do believe that whether we mean to or not, we are teachers. People look up to us as a source of knowledge because we are on YouTube. And whether it's by default or they look up to us because they like us, we've got an obligation to them to give them the best advice as possible and to try to teach them what they're coming here to learn. And
Right.
so I always ask everybody that comes on, like, what's your take on that? Because I do believe it's important to us, or that we share as best information as possible.
Yeah.
um
I've actually gone down and taken down gardening videos too. If I figure out the tip that I gave is not a good tip, I've taken down gardening videos as well. So
that's wild
I
because a
don't
lot
want
of
to
people wouldn't do that.
I don't want to put out something that I don't think is right. Like if I tried it in the video and then it didn't turn out, then I feel bad and I have to take the video down because I'm like, I can't say that.
Right.
That didn't.
Right.
So
So couple last questions for you before you go. um what's your favorite thing to do? I know you like gardening, I know you like canning and stuff, but what is Gail's favorite thing to do?
I like to sing,
Oh, awesome.
but I don't do that on YouTube because they like to,
Yeah.
copyright you and all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
maybe
But
Gail should write her own song, so then it's Gail's song and then she can sing it all she wants.
that's true. I just need a guitar player, somebody that can play the guitar for me while I sing something, a little background instrumental.
I can play the guitar.
Something like that. I need a little backup,
There you go.
I think well, yeah. I've actually thought about that. Making like my own like intro or outro,
That would be
sitting
cool.
down, writing down my own because I've seen other people do it. I'm like, I could do that. I could
Yep.
totally do that.
Yep.
Yeah,
um
you're right. It wouldn't hit the copyright if it was mine.
it sure wouldn't be all yours and nothing they could do about it.
Sometimes people just have to state the obvious to you, and you're like, there it is, right there.
Yep. So there is, I got to the only reason why I said that was because I was getting so frustrated when I would add music to my videos.
Mhm.
Because it would be months down the road and like it would be in the editing software and the editing software would say it was free or whatever. And I'd post it and YouTube had no problem with it. And then months later, the videos are getting flagged, for copyright infringement. I'm
Oh,
like,
it makes me so mad.
yeah. And I'm like, what? It was for free. It was on my editor. Why did it?
It's the same stupid song. I'm like, I'm so tired of this song. I need a
Yep.
new song.
Yep.
But I
So,
can't because it'll hit that stupid thing, So yeah, I need to make up my own.
yep. And so that's what I did. I started going and I made up my own, or I would go and me and my buddy would make it up. Or, because my hands are really bad. I got real bad trigger finger now, so I can't chord like I used to. So I'll get my buddy, I'll tell him what I'm looking for and kind of pick something out for him, or just tell him to write it, and let him do it. And then he'll send it to me. I'll download that and use that for the videos. So that works out pretty good as well. But that's the only reason why I mentioned it, because
Yeah.
I understand the copyright crap.
You might inspire me to do my next YouTube thing that I haven't done yet.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome.
You'd be like, that was me. I'm the one that told her to do that.
That's gonna be cool. I can't wait to see. I hope you
Yeah.
do it. I hope you do it because that'd be very, very cool to see. So,
Yeah.
outside of singing, what else gives you a lot of joy?
I like doing crafts. I also have a homeless ministry.
Oh, that's awesome. That is very awesome and very needed as well. Very needed.
Yes. Yes. So basically, the background story is we found out my older sister, my older sister got hit by a car in Colorado, and she was critical. We drove to Colorado, she passed away. Somebody hit her, and we found out she had been homeless. And
That's
and
sad.
I had not talked to her for about 5 years, so it was pretty heartbreaking. And it hit both my mom and I pretty hard. And that happened in October 2022. And so my mom and I started the Broken Hearts Homeless Ministry. And I started a little YouTube channel for it, Broken Hearts Ministry Gail. And we basically give out non-perishable foods and toiletries and blankets and cold weather stuff and t-shirts and things like that to the homeless. So we do that about once a month.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. My friend Todd Carr, he's up in Ohio, and he's an ex drug addict. He'll tell everybody. I used to be the devil's favorite guy, because I was on drugs and this, that, and the other, and I have watched this man since 2018 completely. He was when I met him, he was saved, but I have watched him become so emboldened and so, you know, uh, empowered by God, and actually go out in the highways and hedges like we're supposed to and compel them in. He was working at the church in the homeless ministry because he knew what it was like. He had been out in the streets and all that, and in fact had it, him and his wife, and and like I said, I've watched this man's whole life. His wife ended up going to prison, and he was raising his little girls, and he posted every bit of it. He goes and talks. I mean, he's such a great guy. I love this guy, and I look up to him so much because he would go out and he would find these homeless people, and he'd say, he'd be recording. He'd say, God says, compel them in, and this is what I'm out here doing. I'm compelling them in. And he would take them to the homeless shelter where they would feed him. He'd be in there cooking and his big old gymnasium and stuff. And he ended up going from just doing that to broadening it out. And he started doing ice cream for Jesus. Okay. And he got a little trailer and he hooks it up to his truck and he drives around all these neighborhoods, and he's got a generator power and this great big old freezer on the back, and he's got a huge cross in the center of the trailer, and it says ice cream for Jesus, right? And he goes around to all these different communities, and he's handing out ice cream to all these kids and adults, who otherwise for free. He's just handing it out. People are donating money, donating ice cream, all kinds of stuff so that he can continue to do this. And it got so big that they started making shirts that said I scream for Jesus, right?
Oh,
And
that's
yeah, and I've watched stuff like that not only transform the person who's doing it and
oh
and
yeah.
and make them an even better person, but I've watched it touch the hearts and the minds and lives of those who come in contact with them. And I really think
You realize how much you have when you see how much they don't have. So it
right,
started to be something we were doing because we couldn't help Gretchen. We thought, well, we can help somebody else's mother or brother or father or whatever.
right,
And but now it's grown past that to where I've literally gotten rid of some things in my house because I'm like, I have too much. Why do I need this many coats?
yep,
Why do I need
exactly,
this many tank tops? Why do I need this many, and I'm just like, oh, they could use it more than me,
yep,
They might like to have a little necklace, and here I have 20, 30 necklaces hanging on a little hanger. I mean, why do I need that many? They could use some. They would like them
exactly,
too. So we give them all kinds of stuff. I
yep.
mean, well, we buy all kinds of stuff. We take a lot of stuff out of our own money. We have things donated from the church, from YouTube,
That's
and
awesome.
we it they yeah.
It's
So it's
awesome.
very rewarding.
It
It's
is
very
because and I don't think people understand that really enough, because when we give of ourselves freely, right? We're freely giving. The Bible says, and I don't want to get into all that, but The Bible talks about, he freely gave to us, right? He freely gave us, our salvation. And when we freely give, our time and our possessions and money and all those things to them, God rewards us for that, and it ends up being huge blessings that we never expected. We never thought it would come, whatever. And huge. And it's always better. I always thought it was funny when I was, a young adult, you'd hear people, oh, it's better to give than receive. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, okay. Yeah,
No,
right, right.
it
But it
feels
really
so
is.
good.
Yes,
You
it
have no
really,
idea
yep. You
how
feel
it
it.
feels to provide and help someone who's in need. And, it's so easy to judge that person with the sign, but after when you pull that sign out of your own sister's backpack
Yep,
that's folded and says, uh, God bless, please help. When you pull that out of your own sister's backpack after she's gone,
yep,
literally the day they took her off
right,
the machine, that sign does not mean the same thing. When I see it now, I'm like, oh, they're saying help me.
yep,
Well, they're making it easy for you. Why not help them? And
right,
people are like, well, what if you give money to someone who, because sometimes I do hand them money if I have it.
right.
If I don't have a bag with me, I'll hand them money because you know what? It doesn't matter what they're going to do with it. My heart is in the right place.
That's right.
I'm I'm thinking it doesn't matter what did it hurt me to hand them 5 or 10 bucks. It did
Not a
not hurt
thing.
me. If
Nope.
they used it the wrong way, that's on them. I did
You
what
did your
God
part.
asked me to do.
That's right.
So,
That's right. And I'm the same
taking it.
way. Yep, I'm the same way because around here in West Virginia, we have a lot of people who will fake it, and they'll go, half a block down or a mile down the road or whatever, and hop in a car that's better than mine, and they're out here panhandling, and a lot of people are like, well, I don't hand them that because they're probably just faking and stuff. I said, yeah, but a lot of times the fake people get caught. The fake people end up
Yeah,
getting caught.
yeah.
Yeah,
You can tell. I mean, you get used to it after a while. You look at their clothes, you look at their shoes, their coat. Do they have a backpack? Do they have a bedroll? Do they have really super tan skin? Because a lot of them are out in the sun a lot.
right.
You can tell. I mean,
Yep,
you
you
know
can.
after a while. And
Absolutely.
really seriously, I packed that bag for somebody who needed food. And if they're standing there on that corner and they're desperate enough for it, my food is good enough for them. The
Yep,
food's for them. So I give it.
exactly.
They're asking for it. They're right there. They're making it easy.
Yep.
Just give it to them. It
Just
didn't
help
hurt
them.
me to give it to them. If they are just poor and need it and I hand it to them, it's I
Right.
mean, it was there to help someone, to bless someone.
Exactly.
So that's what it did. It blessed someone.
I think a huge eye opener for my family was this past summer. We've always tried to help people, but I my wife dropped me off at the VA. And she took the kids to McDonald's to get something to eat. And while they were at McDonald's, I'm gonna try to do this without tearing up because it's very sad. Um, while they were there at McDonald's, they were at the drive-through, and now this is 90-degree weather, and there's a man who had everything he owned on him. Every coat, every shirt, everything he owned was on him in 90-degree weather. And he's digging through the trash can right there at the curb where you go around the building. People would probably just dump their trash in there. And he's going around that, digging in it, and picking up milkshakes and stuff. And he's shaking it and everything. I came out from the VA. And when I get out to the truck, nobody's eating and everybody's crying. And I'm like, what happened? Did somebody die? Like, I don't like what's going on, Excuse me, my wife's crying, my son's crying, my daughter's crying. And I'm like, what, and they start to tell me, this man, he had everything he owned on him. He was sitting there at the trash can, he's shaking drinks and sipping out of them, and trying to get something, picks up a hamburger, partially ate, and unfolds it and starts eating it out of the trash can. And I'm like, oh crap, like I get this feeling of I don't even want to eat my food, right? Like, because it's that heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, is he still there? Can we go back and look? She was like, just let me finish. And I was like, okay. She was like, so we get ready to pull out. And she was like, I had this feeling that I needed to do something. And about that time, Jaden, my older son, said, "Mommy, can I give him my food?" And he said that was it. That broke my heart. She said, so I went around the building, went back around. She's like, I said, "Hey, hey, sir," and he turned around. And she said he had this look of, "Please don't." Please don't scold me. Please don't be mean to me. Please, you know what I mean? Like this. She said it was like a dog who had been beat over and over and over again. The look on his face.
You're gonna make me cry. Stop it.
Yeah. Oh, it was horrible. Like she told me, I legitimately cried because I was like it broke my heart. And she said I reached him, all the money that we had, and it was like 20 or $30 is whatever she had left on her. And she said, "Go get you something to eat, and get out of the trash can because it's not what you need to do." And she wasn't being mean. She was just saying, just go get you something because you deserve better. And can't remember exactly what she said, but it was something to that effect. And she said he lit up like a kid at Christmas, right? I mean, like just unbelievable. And you could see the tears welling up in his eyes. And he said, "Thank you so much." And he turned and went straight in there, and that's what we're to do. We're to be the hands and feet of Christ,
Yeah.
and if I can't help you, I doggone sure don't want to hurt you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's what we're to do. And I think we've gotten so far off track in this country because we're either judging or we're looking at it and we're saying, well, that person's probably on drugs or they're an alcoholic and that's what they'll use it for. Okay, that's not my business. I'm going to give it to
My
him.
sister was on drugs part of this time. Did my sister not deserve to eat? That's what I want to say when they
Right,
say that to me.
exactly.
Did my sister who was on drugs not deserve to eat? Guess
Exactly.
what? She still deserved to eat too.
Yep, exactly.
That's that's what I have to say on that.
People.
Did Gretchen not deserve to eat? Of course she did.
Right,
In my
exactly.
opinion. So I don't care if they do drugs. I don't care
Right.
if they have alcohol or do whatever they do. I don't care what they do. I'm giving them food. I'm just blessing them.
Exactly. And that's
I'm
what
just
we're
being
doing.
the hands and feet of Christ. I never even heard that phrase until I started doing this. And I've never had so many hugs and smiles. And when you hand somebody a sack lunch and then the guy asks you for two and you hand him the second one and he said, "I was hungry," and starts eating it in front of you because he's that hungry.
Yep.
That stuff gets you. You're like, "Oh my gosh."
It does.
That stuff gets you.
But we're so locked in that judgmental, never minding the things that we should be judging ourselves for. Right? Because we're not perfect, and we don't look at it as that could have been us.
It could be me. It could have been
right. It could be. And the only reason why it's not is because God had his hand on me or whatever, right? Whatever you want to say, right? But
maybe
it could have been
putting me in this place to inspire somebody else to do a ministry, or maybe he, in the whole, Gretchen may not think her life had a lot of meaning, but if he let her look down on us right now and she could see that her memory has touched hundreds of people now, it would blow her mind.
Yes, it would. Absolutely.
It's probably literally in the hundreds. When we go to the Salvation Army, we get 30 to 35 people. And right now we're alternating between the homeless at the Salvation Army and the street people. And when we do the street people, we drive up and down the streets. We look for the signs. We look for the people sitting in front of the buildings or laying on the side of Walmart. We've seen people laying on hot pavement in the middle of the summer.
Yep.
Laying on park benches. I mean, it's crazy. You can imagine the positions we've seen them in. And sometimes they're sleeping and you're really, a little bit leery of walking up to them. So I have actually walked up, sit the bag down with their stuff,
and walked away.
Left.
Yep.
Because you don't want to, I don't want to frighten them because you don't know. They could have a weapon because they're used to people
Right.
you
Trying to
know,
hurt them to take their stuff.
hurt them and talk mean to them and stuff. So
Yep.
sometimes I have actually just left it there. So they just woke up and there was a bag of food there. So
Yep. And but that's so awesome that you do that, and so worth it, because it's needed. Though these types of things are needed in this world to show the kindness and stuff, because it's not shown enough anymore. It's just not. We don't try to take care of our own. We just look at it and say, "Oh,
selfish and greedy and jealous.
yes,
You don't need
absolutely."
to be, and
None of those.
none of those things are from God.
No, no, they are not. And we shouldn't be any of those. So that is awesome. I didn't know that you'd done that. And that is awesome. And I really appreciate you sharing
That's
that with us. Yep.
You're welcome.
So that's pretty cool. Well, last question, and I'll let you go. Why do you like doing YouTube?
I just like making friends and communicating, and just having an outlet to share the things that I'm currently doing, whatever that may be, which right now I'm in spring fever of gardening. I'm ready to throw
Get it?
those seeds in the dirt and watch them pop up. So that's what I'm ready for right now. So
Me too. Me too. Well, all right. Last question then. And I promise last question. What's coming up for Gail's Southern Living this year? What are we going to see Gail doing this year? Do you know? Do you got anything planned out?
Definitely gardening. Usually in August, I do the Fall Fest collaboration. It's like a giveaway collaboration where a group of people get together and each channel does a giveaway, and then there's at the end, the one person who wins gets a prize from every single channel they entered. So it's
That's
a
cool.
really cool thing that I do, and I do that every year. I start that in August and end it like in October.
That's cool. That's very cool.
This is I did that for 3 years now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 3 years.
That's awesome. That is
Mhm.
awesome. So, is there anything that we left out? Is there anything that you would tell an aspiring YouTuber?
Well, the advice I got on your first year on YouTube is to make a video every day.
Yep.
That's the advice I got when I very first. But added on to that, now that I know as much as I do, focus more on lives than on videos, because you get more watch time that way. So that's the advice. The further advice I have to add to that is focus on your lives.
That's good
Don't
advice
focus
too.
on your subs, focus on your watch time. Your subs will come in
Yep.
time. You will
Absolutely.
find your people. They're out there.
Yes, you will. You will definitely find them. and they're everywhere.
Oh yeah.
There is such a cool group of like-minded individuals that I have found on YouTube. You, Bland's Promised Land Ranch, Kettle Kitchen, I mean, so Milk and Honey. There's just so many of them
Oh yeah.
that I've met, that I've had on my live stream and stuff, and it's been fun. It's been fun getting to know them. It's been fun talking with them, and though they're not close by, most of them, they're my friends. They're my people.
They really are. I talked to some of these people on the phone. I have one question for you.
Okay.
Why did you decide to interview me? How did you pick me out of the group?
So
Curious.
I go through and I look at all the people that I'm friends with, but and then like Kettle Kitchen, and then I go from there and see who they're friends with, right? Or who they've talked to, who they mention, and things like that. And I ran across you, and I started watching videos and stuff, trying to get to know you and know who you were and everything. And I was like, I really like this person. I want to have her on my channel because she sounds like a great person to have come on, and we have like-mindedness, and we can talk about things. And I didn't have to worry about editing or anything. Like, I could actually have you on live and you not be throwing bad words out, right?
Oh no.
Yeah. And
The
so
only time you're going to hear me say a bad word is if I stub my toe.
Yeah, exactly. Or hit your hand with a hammer or something.
Yes,
So,
it'd be completely unconscious because
right.
well, yeah,
I'm the
I'm
same
just
way.
me. I'm Gail.
Yep.
I'm just
I,
I,
I'm the same way. So, but
yep.
yeah, that's how it came. And I was like, I want to interview this person. I want to interview Gail because she would fit what I do here. She's my people. You know what I mean? So that's why I reached out to you, and I am so thankful that you decided to take it because I have gotten a whole lot of no's. So this is
Really? You're kidding me. No
no,
way.
no, I am not kidding one.
I have a suggestion for you.
Okay,
Milk and Honey Heritage Farms.
she's already
She
going to
on
come
your
on.
list?
Yep,
Sure. Oh, that's right. She is on your list. I think she mentioned that to me.
yeah.
And
Let
it
me
so
see.
you got a good list there. Then if
I've got.
she's on it, that's awesome.
Let
Yeah.
me see here. Where are
She's
they?
a real
Here
cool
she is. I like her. Let me see here.
Heather. She's one I talked to on the phone. I talked to Heather with Milk and Honey Heritage Farms. I talked to Jan with Simply Jan Homestead, and I talked to Luann with Blackberry Rock Homestead.
That's
Those are
cool,
some people I actually talked to on the phone.
right? I like
Except
that.
for Jan and I, we Marco Polo each other. We do a
That's
lot of
funny,
that. Talk for a little bit, then put it down a little bit later, pick it up. Okay, what did she say back? And we'll do that. So
right? But yeah, let me see here. She's on here. Milk and honey, milk and honey, milk and honey. Milk and honey's July 2nd.
July 2nd.
Yep, July
Mm.
2nd. So she's gonna be on. So but yeah, I that's how I do it. I try to find, good people. And I do try to find others that I watch that maybe not be friends with that I know or think I'm going, like going to have a great conversation like we did, right? There's some that, because, and really what I love to do is interviewing. I would, if I thought it would work, I would probably do more interview stuff than I would video. You know what I mean? Almost like a Joe Rogan podcast kind of deal,
Yeah,
where I would do that
that's
because
kind of what I do too. I do get to know them with Gail, and I go through a series of questions like you did,
I love it.
basically. So
I love it.
I do a
So,
lot of that too.
and this is my second year doing it. I started last year in January, and we did really good last year. I bring giant growers on. Once we get closer to giant growing season, I'll start bringing them on and have them come on and talk about their stuff and everything. And I'm actually working on an ESPN type of show for giant growing. So, yeah. So, what we'll be doing is we'll be deep diving in, giving our predictions of what we think these growers are going to do for the week and all sorts of things like that. And it almost be like actual ESPN football type kind of analysis, only for giant growers. So, I'm
Yeah,
working on that, and I'm hopeful that it's going to turn out. And if it does, I'm going to try to pitch it to Epic Gardening so that he'll put it on his channel instead of it being on mine. But then everybody will, it's immediately 1.8 million looking at
yeah,
it.
oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And then,
definitely.
just make sure that it flashes across the thing. The host's channel is Heavenly Hills Homestead. Go check him out, blah, 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 whatever. So that I'm trying to work all that out. I'm hoping and praying that works. We'll see. But
Yeah, actually Tuesday is I just changed from Sunday to Tuesday here recently.
right.
And you happened to ask me before I had a guest set up on this day. So I said, you know what? I don't have a guest. I'll just go up instead of do my own live. So
Awesome. I appreciate that so much too. So thank you.
so I
Thank you.
just put
Thank
it
you.
on my calendar. It's like, okay.
Thank you. Yeah. See that Tony was like, I want you to come on. And I was like, I got a live. So last in December, he wanted me to come on game night. So I took those couple weeks off so that I could go do his game night with him. And I loved that. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually trying to fill up the rest of 2024 so I can start working on 2025. Because I would,
Okay, you've got Milk and Honey Heritage Farm. What about Life with Piedmont Homestead?
no, I don't have them. I do
Yeah, you
not
might
have,
check out the
I
channel,
have to,
see.
let me see
She
here.
might come on. Tina's really nice too.
Life with Piedmont Homestead. Okay, I'll check them out because I'm pretty picky about who I get to come on. You
Yeah,
know, because like, I want it to be a good conversation. I don't want it to be just, whatever. And I don't want them to go on these tangents and cuss and stuff, because my channel's, trying to refrain from that stuff and be
Yeah, me
kid
too.
friendly, you know what I mean? And because
Yeah, me too.
I want everybody to sit down as a family and watch this, you know what I mean? Because
Right,
that's
exactly.
something else that doesn't happen anymore. Families don't get to sit down and watch anything because of whatever, right? Well, it's
Yeah,
got too much of
super
this,
upset.
right? Yeah, exactly. But I tell you what, before we go, I got to go through who we're going to have on in the next couple of weeks. So let me do that real quick. No, I just had it. There we go. Okay, so next week on February 27th, we've got Michelle from Big Valley Living coming on. So make sure you check that out. And then March 5th, we've got Dirty Punk Gardener, Jeremy. He'll be on with us. He's huge on Instagram, and he's got a YouTube channel, Dirty Punk Gardening. Go check it out. But he's going to be on, and on March 5th. Then on March 12th, we've got Blues Self Reliance. She's going to be on. Now, that's going to be a little bit later because of the time difference between us. And so I told her I would accommodate her. I still got to remember that I don't remember the time. So I'm going to have to give it to you, but it won't be 8 p.m. that evening, but it will be on with Blue. And then March 19th, there won't be a live, but it'll be a pre-recorded release of me and John Kohler. And guys, you're going to hear a awesome conversation for 55 minutes about everything that me and John dived into. And it is packed filled with a lot of information, a lot of tips, and a lot of what John thinks. And he don't do a lot of live streams. In fact, well, he don't do any live streams. He only does pre-recorded, and there's not many of them. All right, guys. So I was blessed to get him to come on, and I was very thankful for that. So be sure you check that out on March 19th. Now, March 26th, I'm still waiting on somebody to commit to it. And if they do, it's going to be a good one. So be sure you stay tuned for that. April 2nd, we've got Aileen from Welcome to My Kitchen. April 9th, we're waiting for somebody to commit. And if it commits, it'll also be a good one. And then April 16th, we have Travis Ginger and Randall. He's going to be on for Extreme. And Travis Ginger is the world record holder for the giant pumpkin at 2,749 pounds. So he'll be on with us April 16th. April 23rd, we got Jim Ford, a great Christian giant grower. I cannot wait to have him on. He is a wonderful man, packed full of knowledge. He's been doing this for a long time and has grown some phenomenal 2,000 plus pound pumpkins. So we're going to have him on April 23rd. April 30th, we got my good friend Chad New from Colorado Giants. I learned a lot from Chad. So everything I know, I learned from Chad. All right. So we're going to, Chad and Mark Clements. So I got to give it to him too. But I learned it from both of them. Wonderful growers. May 8th, we have, which is a Wednesday, we got Tony from Kettle Kitchen coming on. May 14th, we got Christine from Gillen Farms. May 21st, we're waiting for somebody to commit. So hopefully they do. If not, we'll fill it with somebody. And then May 28th, we got Enoch Graham, the urban gardener. June 4th, we got Zach Hatton from Hatton Homestead, another great giant grower. June 11th, we got Nick Kennedy, the California State record holder at 2,497 pounds or something for a giant puck. Huge. He's only grown 2 years. I'm jealous. All right. And then we got Adam Weber on June 18th. And then on June 25th, we got Jesus Loving Homestead. So Nathan and Carmen, I think is their names. They're going to be on with us. And if I said that wrong, I'm sorry. Then July 2nd, we got Milk and Honey. So Heather will be on with us. July 9th, we got Flourish Florida Farm going to be on with us. July 16th is open. July 23rd, we got Where to Begin Homestead. And July 30th is opens. And then we got plenty more down through here. But
That's you got a good group there.
Thank you so much.
I need to set up some more for mine too. I think I have set up through March, through the end of March. That's it.
I love being prepared. Yeah, I love being prepared.
I like the way you did it though. Didn't you put it like certain dates and you just pick from those?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
certain days.
I like the way I might have to steal that idea. That was a really good idea. I like that. I like that.
It gives them the ability to pick, and they don't feel pressured. You know what I mean? Yes. When you got it open and they don't feel pressured. Oh goodness, Now I do have issues with, because I might write 10 people within 2 days, right? Hey, you want to come on if it's open? And I have had some people pick the same date. And so then I have to work around them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But they've always been very kind and they've always said, yeah, I'll, because whoever comes first gets the date, so
Mm-hmm.
but it's always worked itself out. So I love it. It works great for me. So absolutely take it and use it. And
Like
I hope
that.
you get more people to do it. So
Sit down and figure out who my next little group's going to be.
Victims, your next victims. You're right. So let me see here. Make sure I got all the chat stuff answered real quick. Just real fast here because I don't want to miss anybody. And guys, if you're ever wondering why I don't read a lot in the chat, it's because I'm trying to focus on talking with the person here.
It's hard to focus on the chat and the person. Like it's really, you feel like you're ignoring the person when you're looking at the chat. And you feel like you're ignoring the chat when you so it's like, yeah, right. I have a hard time with that too.
And I am not trying to ignore you guys at all whatsoever. And I really do appreciate y'all coming in here. It's just very hard for me because I am literally like a squirrel. I'll get over here in the chat and I won't come back to the person I'm interviewing. So it's not to ignore you guys. It's just to be respectful for the person who's given us the time to come and hang out with us. So I want to make sure we got all this here. It looks like we've done pretty good about keeping up with it. I don't see any questions here. Thank you guys for coming in. And Gail, thank you so much for spending this evening with us. I really do appreciate it. It has been an awesome evening and a real blessing getting to interview you.
Thank you for inviting me and good questions and got to learn about you. You got to learn about me. So it worked out great.
Yes, ma'am, it did. So guys, as always, we appreciate you watching and we'll see you next time right here in the Hollers and Hills of West Virginia. See y'all.
Bye, guys.